when he came over, he was about to grab my computer, like, wait, what's going on? I didn't realize he was coming to put it up here for me. I ain't used to that. That's that VIP treatment. My name is Trey Cosmos. I go by Trey. I just want to be honest with y'all completely. So first of all, I always get a little nervous before I do this. I've done this a few times. I always get a little nervous because I'm not the churchy person, you know. I'm barely starting to like church again, just being honest with y'all. I can't be honest today? Just being honest, right? I mean, I've worked in ministry for years, since I was a teenager, and, you know, we're going to talk about that a little bit today, actually. How I kind of lost the love for it, and I'm finding that love again. I've always been tight with Christ. Me and Christ always been like this. But the church thing, I'm just now getting back to it, amen? So, speaking of that, I have the most churchy song that I want to play for y'all real quick. It's by a wonderful prophet named Ramik Williams, a.k.a. Meek Mill. This song has had millennials in a chokehold for about 10 years. Can you just play a little bit of it? I want to do a saying test real quick, see how many of these lyrics y'all know. Don't do it? Y'all got me back there? Y'all already know what this is, right? This is what you've been waiting for? You ready? I'm trying to get the crowd to see who know the lyrics. Let's see if we can do just a little bit of it, just a little bit. I used to pray for times like this, to run like this, no matter. We can cut it. Y'all know, y'all can say it. This is Dreams and Nightmares. Thank y'all. Y'all can fade it. That song, Dreams and Nightmares. First of all, you go to, exactly. Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished. When I got that Aston Martin, I don't have an Aston Martin, but it's coming, amen. All right. So, Dreams and Nightmares is what I want to talk about today. But first, I'm going to start off with the scripture. This scripture, I remember years ago, I was probably maybe 15, 16. It's when my passion for music really started to grow. And there was a situation where I was overlooked for an opportunity and felt really bad about it. I was like, man, like, why? You know, I've been working really hard for this. I practiced, and they just kind of looked over me. And I remember standing in the kitchen and was telling my dad about it. And he quoted me this scripture, Proverbs 18:16. It says, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. Oh yeah, y'all can stand for that. I'll read it again so y'all can stand. And then y'all can sit back down. Okay. A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. Proverbs 18:16. That was a New King James Version. And y'all can have a seat now. What he explained to me was, you keep working on your gift. Keep working on your craft. God gave it to you. Nobody can take it away. And best believe that eventually it's going to make room for you. It's going to open doors for you and bring you more opportunities. And I held on to that for years, right? But I want to show y'all something a little different. There's another translation in the New Living Translation. It says, giving a gift can open doors. It gives access to important people. So this version actually gave me a slightly different perspective. Because I was thinking, this is about my gift, a gift that I have, right? But in this translation, they're saying the gift that you're giving to somebody else. So you come in with some, you know, you don't show up empty-handed. You come in with a gift for the host or a gift for whoever, and that opens doors for you. So this told me something, and the first thing I want to share with you before we really get into dreams and nightmares, there's 4 different types of gifts from God. I want to talk about that really quick. So, it could be a gift for yourself. Like, for example, I don't know where Deron is. Deron and I, a couple of years ago, wrote this song called Just Fine. And that song, especially when I wrote that chorus, it ministers to me still. Like, I wrote that for me. I'll just be honest with you. When I first wrote it, it was actually supposed to be for another artist, and they ended up not taking it, and I was just sitting on it, and I would just listen to it all the time. And those words Like God used me to write the words, but it wasn't really my words. You know what I mean? Like it was a gift that he gave to me to minister to me. You could also have a gift that's for others or for the world. I believe that if God gave you something, a gifting or something that you're supposed to do, it's kind of small if it's just for you. It's kind of, I heard Dave Dash just said this recently. He was talking about chasing your dreams. See, your dream is too small if it only affects you. Your dream is too small. You need to dream bigger to where it affects other people. The biggest dream affects the whole world, right? It could also be a gifting or a skill. And something that I think is important to recognize is that just because you are not necessarily good at something doesn't mean it's still not a gift. It could just be something that you need to work on. Right. So, and I say this to my students all the time. First of all, I teach high school choir. My kids cannot sing. I'm going to just keep it real with y'all. They got terrible. Am I right? My family know. They not that good, okay? I'm just being real with y'all, right? But we practice it, we work on it, and we help them out. And they say, well, I'm just not naturally good at singing. It's like, well, singing, not everybody wakes up and is Jasmine Sullivan. That is true. However, Jasmine Sullivan has probably put in tens of thousands of hours into her voice. So you can work on it and get better. You may not be Jasmine Sullivan, but you can get better. And then lastly, it could be a gift of wealth or a gift of value. Something that costs something or that's precious. You know what I mean? Like you walk in the room with that and they think you somebody just because of the fact that you have this gift. So I want us to think about that throughout this entire message. 4 different types of gifts. One that's for yourself, one that's for others, one that is a skill or a gifting, and one that brings you value. Okay. So talking more about dreams and nightmares. I'm here to tell you that with every big dream that you have, the nightmares are necessary. Right? Just like in that Meek Mill song, he was talking about where he came from. He was talking about the things that he used to have to do, the things that he's trying to get away from, and all of that to get to where he is now and get to where he's going. He made that song before he actually made it, but he was speaking into existence what he wanted to be and talking about the things that he came from, those dreams and those nightmares. They go together. You have to have both. As a matter of fact, if you can dream a dream and obtain it without going through anything, it's also too small. It's still too small, right? So let's talk about the story of Joseph. I'm not going to, just for sake of time, I'm not going to read all the scriptures and get through the whole story. I'm going to just paraphrase most of it so that we can pull out some points from it. So we know that in Genesis 37, talks about Joseph. He had this dream where the stars, the moon, and the sun was bowing down to him. And then he told his brothers that dream. I had a dream about this, and guess what it means? It means that all y'all gonna bow down to me. Okay, first of all, bro, who do you think you are, right? That's what they said. They was really hating on the man. Like, nah, fam. First of all, you almost the baby, okay? You just one above the baby. So sit down. And then his father comes in, gives him this coat of many colors, makes him special, right? Gives him a special blessing. And said, I told y'all, it's just a matter of time. He already knew. They was like, no, we can't let this happen, right? So they got together. They said, this is what we're going to do, all right? We're going to get him out here in the desert. We're going to sell him off to slavery. And then we're going to take his precious coat, cover it in some blood, and act like he got killed by an animal. What a nightmare. Right? What a nightmare. So, okay, paraphrasing. So they sold him into slavery. They lied to their father. He cried about it. He was so hurt about it. He said, I will mourn this until I'm dead. Like he said, I can never get over this. Okay, so we fast forward. All right, he's in slavery, but because he is so focused on his dream, because he knows who he is and know where he's supposed to be, it doesn't matter that the circumstance that he's in doesn't quite look like it yet, right? So I believe, just in paraphrasing or taking my own interpretation of what happened, I believe that he carried himself with that mentality. Like, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to be. It doesn't matter if I'm here. It doesn't matter if I'm there. I'm going to be this, so let me walk like I'm that. Yeah. So what ended up happening, he started finding favor everywhere that he went, right? He started finding, and he became not just a slave, but the top slave. He was in charge of everybody. He was the man in charge because he acted like it. And then, you had some distractions come in, right? Potiphar's wife, she was probably a baddie. I mean, you don't gotta run from somebody who ain't a baddie, right? Y'all don't understand. But he had to run because she was a baddie, right? He said, you take my clothes, I don't care. I gotta get up out of here because if I stay any longer, you're gonna make me do something I don't want to do, right? So she was trying to seduce him, ripped off his clothes, and then lied on him. She said, "Oh, he did this and that to me, and he was sent to prison for that." But guess what? Even while he was in prison, he found favor with the warden. He became the top prisoner. He became the trusted prisoner because of how he carried himself, because he knew this dream that I had has to be real. It has to be true, regardless of this nightmare that I'm in right now. Right? This dream has to be true. Okay, so fast forward, and I'm going to get through this, try to get this a little quicker. So there's a chief butler and a chief baker that both had dreams. I was telling them his dreams. And then he interpreted them correctly and said, oh, you're going to get called up to do, great things. And, sorry, bro, they will kill you. Both of those dreams came true. And butler told him, oh, yeah, when I get up there, I'm going to tell them about you. I'll make sure they come back and get you. Well, guess what he didn't do? He didn't tell them. It took him a little while to get to that, right? And then finally, Pharaoh had two dreams, needed somebody to interpret it. Now the chief butler was like, oh yeah, my boy Joseph back in prison. Actually, I was supposed to tell you about him a little while ago, but he can hook you up. Like he could do that for you. So then and again, just fast forwarding through it, Pharaoh called him up, he interpreted the dreams, and ended up saving millions of people. Because he told them, we're going to have 7 years of good crops, and then 7 years of famine, so we need to make sure we steward that 7 years very well, so that we can be safe in the next 7 years. Y'all see where the dream is going? See how that nightmare is switching up? So he said, okay, again, I find favor with you. You carry yourself like you the big dog. You carry yourself like you the boss. Cool, I'm going to make you the boss. You're in charge of this. Not only did he have to hear his dream, interpret the dream, but he had to be wise enough and smart enough to implement a plan to help all these people. That didn't just come by accident. He didn't just go to him for the information and say, okay, we got it. But he came to him and said, well, you must know what to do. I believe that Joseph had it in him not just to interpret dreams, but to do what needed to be done to save these people, because that was the original dream in the first place. Yeah, right. Then his brothers came to Egypt. They had their whole thing. He eventually gave them gifts, and they bowed down to him, and he saved them basically from the famine that they were dealing with, had them move back to Egypt. That's like I just went through about 15 chapters in Genesis. So go read it for yourself. That's Genesis 37 to about like 45-ish. So we know that was a dream. Started off as a dream with all these nightmares that happened. But he was so focused on the original dream, he said, ain't no way this is the end. Yeah. Ain't no way, right? So I do want to read this. I want to go to Genesis 45. And I want you guys to just read along with me as I read through this. It says, then Joseph could not restrain himself before all those who stood by him, and he cried out, make everyone go out from me. So no one stood with him while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard it. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Does my father still live? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed in his presence. Verse 4, and Joseph said to his brothers, please come near to me. So they came near. Then he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But now, do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. Verse 6, for these 2 years the famine has been in the land, And there are still 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. And God sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you who sent me here. See, he had the mentality. He didn't make himself a victim. He didn't blame them for what happened. He had already forgiven them for this because he knew it had God sent him here. It was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh and Lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. So verse, let's see. I'll stop right there. So we see how he, from the very beginning, this was the reason why his brothers ended up bowing down to him, and how the son started losing. This is the reason why he saw all that happening, because he knew in order for me to save Egypt and save all the people around Egypt, I had to be a slave. I had to go to prison. I had to meet the chef, the chief butler. He had to make that connection to the Pharaoh, or else I would have just been a little boy minding sheep, right? I would have just been the little brother all my life. So there's some key takeaways we can get from Joseph's dreams, and we can just put them all on the screen. I have 7 of them. The first one: don't sleep, get to work. Don't sleep, get to work. I heard this phrase that says, a dead dream is the best dream. It means it's time to move on to the next one, right? However, the flip side of that, a dead dream means you still sleep, and you didn't wake up and get to work on your dream. We have to wake up, get to work. Don't say, okay, I'm going to be rich one day, or I'm going to get here one day, or I'm going to get this promotion one day. Do the work. It's not just going to happen. It's not going to naturally happen, right? Number 2, don't get distracted. Don't let the baddies get in your life and distract you, right? Run away. Number 3, you need the nightmares, right? You need those nightmares in order for your dream to really get you where you're supposed to be. Number 4, God's wisdom never leads you wrong. This one is super important to me. I'll throw something personal in this. In every major decision I've ever had to make in my adult life, I didn't have the answers. Had no idea what to do. And I'm the type of person, I have to have the answers. I'm just being honest with y'all, right? That's my personality. I have to figure it out. Or else I get frustrated, I get angry, I get upset. Like what? I don't know what to do. I don't like being in that place. However, that's the place that I had to be in order for me to say, okay, God, you got it. What you want me to do? And you want me to be really real with you? It was never a clear answer. Not for me. I'm just talking about me, not you. It was a flip a coin, see what happens. Listen, I'm a person that makes calculated risks, okay? I don't, listen, there's not a minute of my day that goes by that I haven't accounted for. I'm just telling you what my personality is. So because of that, being honest, I'm not prone to just walk by faith and just say, all right, God, just let's go where the wind blows, you just take me. That's something I really have to put in practice, right? If I don't see how 2 + 2 = 5, God, you're going to have to show me where that extra 1 coming from. I'm sorry, I don't see it. I'm just saying. So, but in those moments when I say, God, I trust you, I'm going to walk this way. He said, go ahead, I got you. And then I walked that way, and it worked out the way he meant it to work out. God's wisdom will never lead us wrong. Also, number 5, be ready for your moment. Joseph didn't get to Pharaoh and say, you know what, I haven't really practiced my dream interpretation skills lately, so give me a little while. Let me get it together, and then I'll come back. No, Pharaoh didn't have time for that. Right? He said, yeah, go ahead and call him. You've been waiting for this moment your whole life. Right? What Miguel said, ain't this what you've been waiting for? Are you ready? He stayed ready at all times. Number 6, your dream isn't just for you, it's for others. We've already talked about this. Your dream is too small, it's just for you. And then lastly, God gets all the glory. One thing, I know I paraphrased you all that, but one thing he told Pharaoh when he asked him, hey, I heard you interpret dreams. You know what he responded? He said, well, actually, dream interpretation, that's God's business. So I can talk to my God and we can work something out for you. From the jump, he gave God the glory and said, you know, actually, that's him. I don't do this. He does it for me. So let me go to my God. Knowing Pharaoh doesn't even respect his God. He doesn't see that. So he walked in that boldness and said, no, God is going to get the glory in this moment. I'm not going to take the credit. I think that's a beautiful thing about this. So I want to show you something. It's called Ikigai. Can y'all say that? Ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese word. It's a Japanese concept that means reason for being. When I found this, I feel like this was so on point, and that believers need to know about this and see this. It gives you a really good look as to where you are in life, what are you doing that's really leading you to your purpose and what you're supposed to do. However, let me say this. Especially so with my students, I have a lot of students who are seniors. They are a couple weeks away from graduating, and some of them still have no idea what they're supposed to do with their life. And I totally relate because I was in the same place, right? And so they're trying to figure out, well, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know where I'm supposed to end up. Your purpose is not your finish line. But the purpose is the entire process it takes you to get to whatever that finish line is. Honestly, if we really look, the finish line is dead, right? Well, by the time you get there, it's over. So why would that be important? It's that the entire process, the entire life that we live leading up to that point, that is our true calling, our true purpose. So I want to show you this. We can go to the next chart. So it's a Venn diagram with 4 different parts to it, right? And I'll show you each part one at a time. But I want you guys to think about this. I'm gonna treat y'all like me in class, okay? So if you want to take notes on your phone, if you have some scratch paper or something, I want you to either draw this or write down your thoughts that we're about to talk about right now. So I'm gonna give y'all 20 seconds to get some notes. Because this is something personal for you. You're not necessarily writing this. You're going to write some personal things. You're going to answer some questions. So 10 more seconds. Find something you want to take notes with real quick. Okay. I want you to think about, number 1, what do you love? Jesus. What do you love? Don't think about people or things like that. I want you to think about, what are some things that you love? I love music. I love solving problems. I love figuring things out. Some people love cooking. Some people love outdoors. Some people love being social. What are some things that you truly love? Next, what are you good at? Oh, we can keep flipping through. It's going to come up one at a time. There we go. Perfect. What are you good at? What is something you are really good at? And I want you to think deep. So if you're like Jeremy or Deron or Lawrence, you may automatically say music. But what is it about music that you're good at, right? Are you good at putting your thoughts into words and communicating that to someone? Are you good at hearing something and reinterpreting it? So what is it that you're good at? Are you good with people? Are you good at counting things? Like, what are you specifically good at? Really think about yourself for a moment. Next, what can you get paid for? Now, those are different. Being good at something doesn't always mean you can get paid for it, right? Also, what can you get paid for is not just a job, but think about skills that you have or gifts that you have that can turn into money. Specifically, that can turn into money. It doesn't count in this bubble if it doesn't turn into money, right? So what can you get paid for? And lastly, what are things that you feel the world needs? So what does the world need? Do you think we need clean water? Do you think, I know everybody's churchy answer is always, they need Jesus. Yes, we know, they need the gospel. But in what way do you think people need it, right? Some people, there are people, missionaries out there who spread the gospel by giving people resources. So that they believe those resources are important. Some people think people need education. the world needs, to me, I think the world needs more positive music and more positive art. More art that shines a light on Christ. We need more quality art. What are some other things that the world needs? So when you really take time and think deep about these 4 things, whatever you said, I guarantee they're going to be totally different than everybody else in the room. Because this is kind of what makes up your calling. But what we need to do is get to Ikigai, to where they all work together, right? So remember I talked about those 4 types of gifts? This is where it comes from. Those 4 different types of gifts, where it's a gift for yourself. Oh, you into a gift for yourself? That's something that you love, right? A gift for others, that's for what the world needs, what other people need. If it's a gifting or a skill, that's something that you're good at. And then it's a gift that can bring you wealth, that has value, and something that you can get paid for. So let's keep this going. Whenever you are, I think this is maybe like the 5th or 6th one. Whenever it's something that you love and you're also good at it. So for example, I love music, good at music. That's a passion. That's where your passion comes from. Does that make sense? Like if you're good at something and you love to do it, or you love it, if you're great at cooking and you love cooking, that's your passion. On the other side of that, if you love something and it's what the world needs, that's your mission, right? That's a mission. If you're good at something and you get paid for it, that's your profession, right? You're a professional at that. And then the other side to that, if it's what the world needs and you get paid for it, it's a vocation. So the difference between a profession and a vocation is that you're doing something for the greater good of the world. So a doctor is someone that gets paid to be a doctor, and it does the greater good for the community. Or even a plumber. What would our world be like if we didn't have any plumbers? That's why they pay so much. That's why they're so expensive, right? Because if there were no plumbers, I can't say the phrase I was thinking. I'm still working on it. Anyway, so vocation, that's something that you get paid for, and it's what the world needs. It doesn't mean that it's your passion, though. Just because your vocation doesn't mean it's your passion, or doesn't mean that it's your mission, right? But then we can get further down, and we can skip to the next one. So this is where now we have 3 different things combined together. So that first one, if it's something that you love, something that you're good at, something that you get paid for, right? But it's lacking something. What is it lacking? If you love it, you're good at it, and you get paid for it, which one is it lacking? It's lacking what the world needs. So what ends up happening is we find satisfaction, but we get a feeling of uselessness. Because we're getting paid to do it, we're good at it, and we love it, but is it doing anything for the world? Is it doing anything for other people, or is it only serving myself? What about the other side of that? If it's something that we love, it does good for the world, and we're good at it, but we ain't getting paid for it. It brings you delight and fullness, but there's no wealth. Now we broke. We're doing good things, but we're broke. Nobody want to be broke, right? Or if it's something that you're good at, you get paid for, and it's a greater good for the community, but you don't love it. You get comfortable, but you get this feeling of emptiness, right? You get comfortable, but it's this feeling of emptiness. And I'm gonna pause right there to just share about myself. That's how, for the last year or 2, I've been feeling about ministry. It's like I developed a skill in ministry that I'm good at. I found a way to try to get paid for it, and it was for the greater good of others, but I lost my love for it. I wasn't really walking fully in my calling. I didn't really have that full being because I lost that love for it, right? And then also, it could be something that you love, something that is good for the world, and you get paid for it. So like we talked about plumbers, right? It gives you excitement and complacency, but this sense of uncertainty. When it's something that you may not be good at, or maybe you're not skilled at it, right? So you're not that good at it. So it makes you feel like, man, I could lose this at any minute, right? I'm not secure in this enough. Once we find a good balance between we love it, we're good at it, it pays us, and it's for the greater good of the world, that's when we find our true reason for being, our total calling. But what I want to make sure we understand, like a lot of times in church, when we talk about what we're called to do, and we add the aspect of getting paid for it, it doesn't mean you got to work in ministry. Let me say again, it doesn't mean you have to work like for the church or have to be employed by the church in order to do this. Because number one, we don't have to do ministry at church. So, as a matter of fact, the word ministry actually means oikos, which means your network of people. Right? So, really, your ministry and your mission is for whoever you are around. So, if I'm around this cluster of people at my job all the time, and I'm here 40, 50, 60 hours a week, this becomes my oikos. So how can I bring the gospel to those people, right? How can I minister to them? And it doesn't always mean you go to them and say, hey, let me tell you about Jesus, right? But it could, because I'm definitely not, I'm never going to do that, right? Because that's going to make me feel awkward. I'm going to start sweating like I am now, and, my armpits get hot. I'm not going to do that. But showing people who Christ is through you, through your personality, through what you love, or through what you're good at, right? You can show people Christ. You can give them the gospel that way. And then it doesn't just stop at sharing the gospel with people or getting them saved. Now we have to be in communion with each other as a church, as an oikos. So it's not just, let me tell you about Jesus. Oh, you know Jesus? Cool, deuces. We're good. We're done. But it's an ongoing process of caring and loving on people, caring for people, caring for the greater good of the world. I truly believe if we focus our time and attention on not just taking care of ourselves, but of trying to do something good for the rest of the world, or finding what is my place in this? How do I do this specifically? I think the whole world would be a better place, right? We would, because we talk a lot about, the crime rate is high, things are getting worse, we need to do more praying, we need to do more spreading the gospel, we need to do more, and all that stuff is cool, but there's also some things we could do, like making people better, helping people raise their kids, like giving people more educational things, trying to find more opportunities for people, starting businesses so that we can employ people so that people don't have to be broke. Like, those are things that bring people closer to Christ without you literally just walking up to them and say, hey, let me tell you about Jesus. That's good too. There's a whole lot more that we can do too. And I'm trying not to breeze through this, but sometimes people feel out of place in the church world because it feels like we have to do it this way. And it's like, well, I know I'm good at this. I know I'm passionate about this, or I get paid to do this, but how exactly does that fit into this ministry world? I don't think it fits. So I start to lose my identity more and more and try to put on this identity that I don't have. Y'all follow what I'm saying? So if I'm good at this, if I love this, if I get paid to do this, what if I just take that and find that's my way of doing something greater for the world? So I want to finish off by reading one final scripture in Ephesians 4. So I'm going to read the Amplified version, and I like the Amplified because it's pretty much like the King James, but it breaks down certain words more. And I love words. I love seeing how words are used in Scripture. So it says, Ephesians 4:1, so I, the prisoner for the Lord, appeal to you to live a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called, to live a life worthy of the calling to which you've been called. He wants you to fulfill your dream, right? But you got to live a life worthy of fulfilling that dream. And he breaks it down. He says that is to live a life that exhibits godly character. Oh, Lord, I'm working on that one, amen. Moral courage. So just having the will to do the right thing. Personal integrity. And I love that word integrity because we know that it means what you do in the dark, right? How you handle situations when no one's around. But also, I want to take it a step further. Integrity is just what you just won't do. It's certain things that you decided, I won't do this for my own integrity, like for artistic integrity. There's certain people that, let me say it like this, I'm gonna say church, if it doesn't bless my soul, I'm not gonna work with them, right? If it doesn't bless my ears, I won't have any parts with it. It's artistic integrity. Y'all know what I mean? Like, and you have certain integrity with the things that you do. Like, I'm not going to, I'm gonna pick on Marcus. I feel like Marcus probably say, you know what, if the menu is this cheap, I ain't touching it because I do high class food. Am I right though? You're so right. Said, look, I ain't touching that. We hold the bar up here. That's his personal integrity, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Also, mature behavior. A life that expresses gratitude to God for your salvation. So here's what I meant by it doesn't stop at just getting somebody saved, but now we live a life that shows gratitude to God for even saving us in the first place. An example of that, when I was graduating college, I took the long route to graduate college, right? Amen. But I did it though. Yeah, we can clap for that because I did it. It took me a long time, but I did it, right? But honestly, I was like, once I got it done, it had been such a long journey for me. I was, I don't even want to go to the graduation ceremony. I don't need to do all that, right? And my mama fussed at me like she always does about, oh hey mom, about stuff like that. And she tells me, the celebration is not just for you. As a matter of fact, it's not for you at all. It's for the people that have been supporting you, that's been praying for you, that's been pushing you. It's for them. It's for them to celebrate you. So it's the same thing. We live a life that expresses gratitude to God for saving us. We should live that life because it's not, at that point, it's not for us, right? It also says, with all humility, forsaking self-righteousness and gentleness, maintaining self-control, with patience, bearing with one another in unselfish love. I feel like he's laying out the blueprint on what it looks like to walk in your calling. This is not once you're at the finish line. This is leading up to the quote-unquote finish line. This is how we should be moving and walking. Make every effort, this is verse 3, make every effort to keep the oneness of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Oneness. Y'all say that, oneness. I've always wanted to do that. I hear preachers do that all the time. And I just want to say oneness. All right, I like that. I like this. I'm going to give y'all random things to say. Okay. So it says, each individual working together to make the whole successful. There is one body of believers and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when called to salvation. Verse 5, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of us all, who is sovereign over all and working through all, living in all. Yet grace, God's undeserved favor, was given to each one of us, not indiscriminately, but in different ways. So I love this because it says, yes, there's that oneness. We're all doing this, all for one, right? We're all doing this for the same purpose, one body. And he didn't discriminate in how he gave it to us. Yet he gave it to all of us differently. We don't have to do the same thing everybody else does. As a matter of fact, he made us do it the way we were supposed to do it. You know why this is so important to me? Why this really blesses me? Because I grew up feeling out of place everywhere I went. I was always the oddball. And I always felt like I'm different. And I'm okay with being different, kind of. But life would be much easier if I just conform to this, if I conform to that, or if I, just change my personality to be like this, or change and then I finally realized, especially as I got older, first of all, I don't care what none of y'all doing, right? You do your thing, I'm gonna do mine. You be who you're supposed to be, and I'm gonna be me. Just because you take on the identity of Christ doesn't mean you get rid of yours. As a matter of fact, he adds to your identity. He adds to your personality. He enhances who you are and turns it for the greater good of the community. So it says, yet grace, God's undeserved favor, was given to each one of us, not indiscriminately, but in different ways, in proportion to the measure of Christ's rich and abundant gift. Therefore, it says, when he ascended on high, he led captivity captive, and he bestowed gifts on men. He gave us his gift. It was part of our salvation. It was part of our grace. Yes, that gift is that grace. That's the part that's for us. He also gave us gifts that's supposed to be for somebody else. Yeah. We give grace to others. We give gifts to others. We use what's within us and give it out. He also gave us gifts that we're good at. There's certain things that some people are just great at, right? So some people are just really good with people. They're really good at carrying a conversation and getting to know somebody and making them feel like $1 million. That is your gift. Use that. That's not just for you. That's for everybody else, right? And he also gives us gifts that we can use to gain wealth. Gifts that we can make money from. We just sometimes we gotta get a little creative on how we use that. We have to figure it out, right? So, with that being said, we've talked about dreams turning into nightmares that lead us back to our dreams. I want you all to walk away from this asking God, what is it that you've called me to do? The reason why I'm even saying this is not because I'm an expert on the topic, right? I'm literally in a place right now. I'm asking God, what is it that you want me to do? And let me cut out everything that doesn't go there, right? I also believe God gives us grace to experiment a little bit. Let me try this. God, am I called to do this? And like you told me, flip a coin and go, because I got your back, right? Okay, let me try this for a little bit. And in that season, this worked out for me, and this was great, and I was doing good things, and then it turned out, you know what? Maybe I should try something else. Does that mean God's word failed you? No. Does that mean you failed? No. No. It just means that was part of the process. I've had so many different types of jobs and different types of things that I've learned, skills that I've learned, and sometimes I think, okay, why in the world was I doing that? What did that have to do with my calling? Right? That short time I spent doing this. Or when I was focused on this, why was I doing that? And I truly believe now more than ever that every place that God has taken me, every place that He's brought me to, I took little nuggets here and there. And said, all right, this is all added to this grand thing that He wants me to do. He's doing that with you too. For people that have been to a place, your lowest place, your biggest nightmare, the place that He took you and you felt like I was doing nothing but going against God's word. I was completely out of His will. I was doing everything that He told me not to do. Guess what? He uses that as part of your plan, as part of your path, your purpose that leads you to where He wants you to get. But please, and this is something especially for millennials. I think we have kind of, coined the whole purpose, like finding purpose, and really dug into that. And if it's not my purpose, I don't want to do it, and that's great. However, we have to remember, part of that purpose is going through it, going through the process. It's not about just where you get it, but it's about the whole entire process of getting there. I want us to pray. I'm going to pray. And first of all, I just want to thank y'all for listening to me and watching me sweat. Amen. I want to take some time to hit on 3 different things. Okay? If you are currently in a place where you're trying to find what's next for you, not what's the end goal, because the end goal doesn't matter that much. It's the process. So what's next? If you're in a place where you're trying to find what's next, I want to first just pray for that. You don't have to raise your hand. I don't care about all that. I just want us to all just take a moment to close our eyes and allow me to pray for you while I also pray for myself. Can we do that? So if you're in a place where you're trying to find, God, what's next for me? What's my next move? I'm not really clear on that. I'm not really sure on that. I want you to make that clear, or at least give me enough trust to take a step of faith and know that you got me. So God, I first thank you for every single person that's in this building, every single person that's listening to us right now, God. We're coming to you today asking you to make our path clear. We know that you have a plan for us, a plan that is not meant to harm us, but it's meant to bless us. So God, we are praying and asking that you show us that today, God. That you open our eyes, you open our ears to hear you, and that the next step that we take is the best step towards our dreams. God, we thank you for keeping us. We thank you for this grace that you've given us indiscriminately, that you've given to every single person, God. And we thank you for giving us and giving us grace in everything in our past. Even when we veered off to the left or to the right and we got off of your path, God, we thank you for cutting out a new path for us and getting us back to where you wanted to go. We thank you for using those things for our good and not for our bad. And so, God, we're asking today that you give us clarity, you give us wisdom, you let us know exactly where you want us to go. And then not just for us, God, but you help us to see how our path benefits other people. You help us to see how we can help other people get on their path. We pray, Lord God, that you would continue to shine your light on us, God, that we would not try to hide our light, but that we would be a light up on a hill for people to see and see your glory, God. We thank you, we love you, and we praise you. Amen. Okay, so next thing I would like to do, I want us to take a moment to think. If you don't have any relationship with Christ, you don't know anything about what we're talking about, or it's familiar to you, but you're not really sure if you're there, I want to tell you something. It's very simple. It's very simple. God saw that we were separated from him because of sin. So he sent his son to save us. His son did no sin, was completely perfect, and yet he took on the punishment for all of us. He died 3 days. He rose again because the power of God's Spirit could not keep him in hell where we were supposed to be. And all he asks us to do is to say, Lord, I follow you, and I'm going to put those old things behind. I want to be like you, and I want to put away my old person. You just have to make that decision today. So in just a moment, I'm going to call you up. If that's the decision that you want to make, we have people that are here that can pray for you and get you to that point where you can now be in God's kingdom. You can now be a king and a queen in his kingdom, and you don't have to worry about your sins coming to knock on your door and tell you it's time for you to take your punishment. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You can now focus on the grace that he's given you and continue to walk in the light that he wants you to walk in. I also want to speak to those that have veered off a little bit, or maybe you simply just lost your love for church things, or lost your love for godly things, or you just need to get back on track. We have people that want to pray for you as well. And lastly, if you just want to find a new church home, you want to join Freedom Church, we can come down and pray for you and get you signed up as well. So if any of those things, or if you just want general prayer from one of our leaders, at this time we're going to ask the leaders to come up, and you guys can come up. And so if you wanted prayer for any of those things, or if you want to give your life to Christ, you want to rededicate your life to Christ, or just get back on track, or if you would like to join our church, you can come down now, and one of us will pray for you.